pay respect to the traditional custodians of the land and waters, the Ngarrindjeri people, whose ancestral lands are on which we meet today. We acknowledge the deep feelings of attachment and relationship of Aboriginal people, the country, and pay our respects to elders past and present. We extend that respect to all First Nation people. Thank you, everyone. First item I have is apologies. I have Councillor Rountree as an apology, and Councillor Peach will be here, but he's a late arrival at this stage. Number 2, acknowledgements. So just like in the back of the chamber, or perhaps off camera, is our new Director of Roads and Infrastructure, Josh Bowen. So Josh, welcome to this council. He's very good to have come and watched us this evening. He starts on the 26th of February. And on that note, Travis, thank you, Travis Hay, for acting in the last month or two in this role. So you might be relieved by the fact that you've been relieved. Josh comes from the City of Prospect in Adelaide in the Manager of Assets and Maintenance area. So welcome, Josh. Declarations of conflicts of interest, councillors. Number 3, do you have any conflicts of interest to declare? There's none. Item 4, confirmation of minutes of the ordinary meeting, including the confidential items, please, held on the 23rd of January 2024. Councillor Bland is the mover. Councillor Arthur is the seconder. Any discussion, councillors? There being none, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Item 5 is adjourned business. I have none. Nil. Item 6, reports by members. There's a Mayor's report there. Anyone got any questions around that report, please? Councillor Qualman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. 24th of January, meeting with the Minister of Local Government and Regional Roads, Honourable Jeff Brock MP, and the CEO, Dylan Ben.
Yeah.
Any updates or interesting?
Oh, I think it was considered a general visit by the Minister.
Yeah.
Nothing, I think, particularly come out of it. We would have pursued, obviously, the Local Government Act is there's some more amendments in that. There's also, as you know, the LGA is pursuing their, not this related to the Minister, the LGA is pursuing some constitutional amendments, which will come to you pretty soon. And we obviously would have talked about roads and his role as the Minister for Regional Roads as well.
Thank you.
I might just go to the 30th of January, if I may. I'll publicly thank the City of West Torrens for their hospitality, which we have, but I think most of us managed to go there on that day to look at Solo Waste Smurf or Murph or some sorting. What's it called? A Murph, or pretty close. And enjoyed the hospitality of that good city council, and we probably learned a fair bit about the just every council is different in things, and we had a good look around, and particularly their sports facilities, to be quite honest, and I thought that was quite instructive for us, given that might be coming to one or two of our towns fairly soon, but a good day to learn things. Okay. Just the last thing. On the 8th of January, we did a telephone interview about the Dukes Highway, myself and the Mayor of the Tatiara Council. It'd be fair to say that neither of us are happy yet with the responses we had from the state government, and we'll be pursuing that further. Okay, nothing else. 6.2, council members' reports. We have none. Just for everyone's benefit, the councillors only need to submit a written report every 3 months, so it's just the way it's fallen this month. Number 7 is petitions. I have nil. Number 8 is deputations, and I have none. We have none. Number 9 is public question time. So we have none. Number 10.1, councillors. Wellington East Water Supply Community Engagement findings. Is someone prepared to move the recommendation, or do you want to have a 5-minute explanation?
A 5-minute explanation, please.
just about questions, what would you like to know that's not clear in the report?
I think given that this is public, it would be good for the community generally across the council area to have an understanding. Those who didn't attend any of the public sessions.
So this is the first stage of a process around council, I suppose, finding a better supplier for potable water at East Wellington. And the way I read the report is that the majority of people are in favour of that. There's still some technical issues to be resolved around that, and then therefore the costings and how we'll fund it. Council only provides a water service, and in this case non-potable, at East Wellington and a smaller one at Peak. And as a general position, we don't regard ourselves as a provider of water. Probably very lucky to have SA Water across such a broad council area as us and our principal towns. So this is we've got SA Water to this stage after several years. So this is about us continuing to see what model we can come up with in a physical sense to change over to potable water, and also in a financial sense. And I've spent some time with the Minister, which is the Deputy Premier, around this subject, as in risks in the future around the River Murray. And East Wellington is probably the last takeoff of a domestic water supply on the River Murray in a public sense, for a public service. So we see that as somewhat of a risk. So the recommendation is there, which allows us to continue this process of public consultation after some more information thing. Councillor O'Hara, you want to speak?
No, scratching my head.
Sorry, Councillor Bland.
I have a further question. Is this all of the letters that we from?
In relation to this item, yes, Councillor.
Thank you.
Councillor Arthur.
This amount of money is not in the budget at the present moment. It will have to be
No, it is.
budget adjustment.
The 80,000 is part of detailed design that's budgeted for.
It is part. Sitting within. Thank you.
Looking for someone to move a motion. Councillor Bland, you moving it as it reads?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a seconder? Councillor Qualman, you were the seconder?
Thank you.
I just might read the recommendation for everyone's benefit. The council, in relation to the Wellington East water supply project, 1, receive and note the stage 1 community engagement findings report. Point 2, approve the commencement of a detailed design and funding model for the proposed transition of the Wellington East water supply to an SA Water owned and operated drinking water scheme. And point 3, upon completion of a detailed design and funding model, commence stage 2 of community engagement with the Wellington East water supply customers. You want to lead debate, Councillor Bland?
No, I'm happy with the motion. Thank you.
Councillor Qualman?
I'm happy and I'm glad you read out the recommendation so everybody understands where we're at and how we're proceeding and the importance of future community engagement.
Thank you. Anyone else, councillors? There being no one, Councillor Van, you'll close.
Consider it closed.
Okay, so I put the motion and it is as it reads the recommendation. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Number 10-2, 10th Street Precinct. If there's a recommendation there, councillors, someone prepared to move it?
Suspend
You,
for 5 minutes or whatever.
is everyone in agreement to suspend procedures for 5 minutes?
Yep, I'm happy to do
Happy with
that.
that?
Okay, 5 minutes, please. 5:10. Your question, councillor, is?
Well, my question is, as elected members, we are supposed to do what is best for the whole of the council area, the ratepayers. If we went by the recommendation that is received here, it would very restrict the applicants that would be interested in purchasing the property. If you've got those sort of restrictions on it, it's also only going to reduce your price dramatically. The Regional Precincts and Partnerships Program, Affordable Housing Project, hasn't been working very well anywhere because they can't get anything built. And the other, I would ask this question also, under these affordable housing projects, and does it become a retirement village type thing where we have to give 75% of the rates back?
That's not my understanding. On the last question.
I don't want your understanding, I want to know if it is or not.
Debatable.
It is relevant.
Through the chair.
Knowles.
Through the chair. The accommodation is for working individuals and families. As you saw with the presentation from Unity Housing 2 weeks ago from Matthew Woodward, the program looks towards providing affordable housing for options such as rent to buy for, as I said, working families. And the key aspect of this is to ensure that they only pay 30% of their disposable income towards the cost of the housing. That's the key aspect. And the other key to this is that the organisation such as Unity Housing replace effectively banks and ensure then that the finance is provided to the occupier of the dwelling, and that enables then for Commonwealth funding to be accessed. The Regional Precincts program is new. It's not purely, this is the equivalent of the replacement of Building Better Regions, Commonwealth funding. So this isn't, I don't want you to confuse this funding application that we're going for with an affordable housing funding application. This is purely to take advantage of the opportunity to acquire 100% of the pre-development costs to bring together the land division that would create 25% of the block that could be sold to market, no restrictions, and 75% that could be moved forward through an expression of interest for an affordable housing project. So this is purely at this stage asking if council are willing to make a decision about the split of the land effectively and the use of the land so that the funding application would be lodged next month, in which we would have the very, very rare opportunity to acquire 100% of pre-development funding. $100,000 is what we're looking to achieve. And I would say that we would have a reasonable case considering Tail and Bend and the criteria of this funding application.
There's one further question there. It's been told to us that affordable housing for $400,000 to $450,000 range. It was at the last workshop. Well, why would people be that when looking online? There's probably about 10 houses here for sale between the 280 to 340,000. And if you look back for the sales for the last 2 years, except for say with the river area, Riverina along the cliff, and the very $1 million houses, there's been very little sold up to $400,000. Why is that going to change?
I will answer that.
Yep.
So these are brand new housing. I mean, effectively, that 450,000 is the cost of construction. That is what it costs, and even in regional areas, it's probably a bit more to build a modern 3-bedroom dwelling that is climate efficient, has all the appropriate requirements for growing family. So that's what they base their 450 affordable housing. It's construction costs. Yes, I agree. There's probably properties that you could acquire in Tail and Bend currently cheaper. In fact, that's probably an opportunity where, people can potentially, other people can come into the district, people can, there's a huge range of property values in town and Bend. The lower end that you're talking about are older stock. They're not really comparable with a modern 3-bedroom house. So if we were going to go and build a 3-bedroom house out at one of the new land divisions in town and Bend, we'd probably be having a property that you can market for $500,000.
Councillors, I've got up to 5 minutes, but do you want another 5 minutes? So your time just needed to know yes for another 5 minutes of
Yeah.
discussion. And I'll just bring your approval to the last part, councillor, of the report. It says, if approved by council, further activity in respect to the disposal of this surplus land would await the outcome of the funding application. And the funding application doesn't only include this affordable housing project. Should the funding not be granted, council will have the opportunity to reconsider the matter and reassess its preferred way forward. Councillor Maidman.
Thank you, Mayor. With the recommendations, number 1, I don't support. Option 6 doesn't take into account all of the respondents' wishes. There's no area there or no provision made for some green space. And I think there was enough of the responders, 29% by my reckoning, to warrant some area of green space. So I think we need to go back to the table on that. I'm happy to endorse the second recommendation, but I won't be supporting option 6 because of that. One other question I have is, are we going to ask local real estate agents about options available to us for the sale of this land, or what they think we could do with it? If we're not, why not?
Answers that question, Your Worship. The answer is yes, we would. So it's normal practice for us to, in any real estate transactions, to engage with local real estate agents, as long as they have experience. But considering this is residential land, this would be residential land, I would not hesitate to involve them in the market sale. We do that through essentially, we go to 3 locals and ask for, their cost to handle sale.
We're also looking at bringing them in perhaps and seeing what they can offer. We go straight with Unity Housing or...
On the affordable housing. So, the affordable housing has a very specific, if it's going to qualify for the Commonwealth Government, you have to be an affordable housing provider.
Yeah.
So that's where the real estate agents don't fit in. Yeah. I was thinking more about the percentage of the land that might be sold to market. So that's where the real estate agents entities such as Unity Housing. I think in South Australia there's probably only 3 entities or so. A project like this, you would go out an expression of interest. They may look for partners, they're developers, at some stage. They have certain developers that they work with. We would always try to encourage as much local content as possible.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
A minute or 2 left. Councillor Coleman, do you have your hand up?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm like Councillor Maidman with option 6, because when you look at the report on page 6, it says Part E, retained land for open space and non-residential recreation in brackets. That is overwhelming, the most popular, followed by affordable housing. And I just think we should have some green space because most people wanted some recreation area in that, and also not forgetting we've got to make taking account of the Frank Clapp Memorial as we're doing it. And yes, so that's my concerns.
So, councillors, Councillor Bland, yes.
I guess my concern was, we had a presentation recently around affordable housing. One of my concerns was the fact that they haven't been able to complete buildings due to cost, and this may really change the affordability of this. And I guess that sends a little bit of an alarm bell to me, and I believe there is potentially some in Murray Bridge that are sitting unfinished. And I'm not sure whether that's across the board, but it does concern me a lot that we could find ourselves in a similar position further down the track.
I'll answer that. I mean, at the moment, the driving imperative is to put an application in for funding for pre-development activity, and that pre-development activity would include a feasibility study, would include a delivery strategy. So there's no guarantee, in my mind, and we're not, and even the funding body doesn't seem to have to tie the grant to the second stage, which is the delivery, the construction. This is all about, we've made it very clear in the application, if we go ahead, that we would be doing our due diligence. That's part of $100.
So there-
Due diligence.
I guess then we would not be expected as a council to return any money should we not progress with.
That is my understanding. There doesn't seem to be a key there that says, we'll give you this money to do your pre-development work and you must guarantee that you will deliver it. It appears that if it's simulation work, I mean, you must be genuine in your intent. I mean, you can't just be going out and getting $100,000 and, you know, keeping your people busy. You must have a genuine intent. Again, this is about a precinct, and there's a suite of projects associated with this, and one would expect $500,000 worth of pre-development work that includes this project, streetscape activity, Dixon's Reserve, so it's parcelled up into a $500,000 package of design, pre-development activity. I would suggest as a precinct project, as long as you move forward with a reasonable percentage of the activity, you'll be fine. There's a second stream, importantly, there's a second stream of this funding for the next 3 years, for this year and the next 2, that covers construction activity, delivery activity, and that is a minimum of $5 million. So what you would be doing is, if the feasibility study and the activity, let's say we're successful, has given council confidence to move forward with the affordable housing project, you should actually be applying potentially for funding through the next stage, maybe in concert with a non-government organisation, an affordable housing provider. But the key, if that proceeds, the key then is the contribution council makes, the only contribution makes necessarily is the land, which I've said 75%. I might just say about the open space. There was always an intention to have open space, and when you have a land division, you have to provide open space.
It's just
You
when,
don't have to provide open space on the site, and you know that's a decision for council. But council will need to turn their mind to providing some sort of open space. You can either provide it on the land where you can, you know, take some of the funds and you can enhance another park, spend the money elsewhere, and also the affordable housing model will include appropriate amenity within their group of dwellings. So I would expect them to have common grounds, barbecues, you know, some sort of recreation area as well. I don't envisage that the affordable housing area just being concrete and dwellings. That's all. I would not accept that personally. I'm sure council wouldn't as well. So in this sense, you'd have an opportunity to influence the design.
Okay, councillors, welcome councillor Peach. We're just in 10-2, the 10th Street precinct, and we're still not in formal session. You got any questions before I move us back into it?
I'll catch up and
Well, catching up's about to be, because I'm about to take us back into formal session, and I was took councillor Maidment.
thank you.
I think you were having trouble with the first part of the recommendation, but
I was just going to ask about that.
if you wanted to add something around open space and the Frank Clapp Reserve into item 1, that was what your motion was going to be, that would.
I'd be happy as a the way it's worded at the moment makes no provision for any
Yep.
green space. And I think anybody reading that, in the
Hmm.
public would say, hang on, that's not what we asked for. So if there's some provision put in recommendation 1 for green area, green space to be investigated as part of the option, I'm happy to support it.
So
But
if
the
you
way
were to,
it's worded
if it
at
was
the
to
moment, no.
I'll try some words for you.
Okay,
He
Do it.
supports the combined option of a market-based sale and affordable housing project, which is option 6, including some open space and
provision for
including the
open
Frank
space.
Clapp
Yep.
Reserve. I'm trying to find a better word than that, but
Through you, Mr Mayor, with a subdivision, there's a certain provisions within
Yeah.
that gives certain green space,
yeah.
more money to
And-
compensate for. Is
And,
that
the-
not
and
right?
the, and the directors
not in
elaborated
there.
on that, but
Yeah,
trying to get us to a motion to debate. So if you were happy on how we went, oh, I think open space covers green.
I think, yes, whichever,
The amount of summer rain we're having, we're getting a fair bit of it.
open space, yeah. Or
Might be
Because
the
you
right
couldn't
sort of
put
green, but
You couldn't put community-based space because then that opens it up to
Oh.
barbecues and
Yeah,
skate parks
yeah.
and, yeah, if you
The-
put
the-
open spaces, more what I was
the
talking about.
deputy mayor is correct, but so is the director. That, you know, any proposal needs to include that sort of by default. So you're happy to move and in both points with that sort of change on the
Now
recommendations?
that's been put in, I'm happy to move on it.
Councillor Qualman will be the seconder. So we're now in some debate, councillors. Hang on. Councillors Maidman, Qualman. Do you want to, so you want to speak to your motion now, councillor?
Yes, well, thank you, Mayor. I'm glad that that provision has been put in. I think it's important that we, as a council, listen to our community, and that's what they wanted. If we could include that, and it wasn't on the original recommendation, so I'm glad it's been put in. So thank you for that.
Councillor Qualman has been the seconder.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I'm just virtually repeating what Councillor Mayman's saying. I just had to, going by statistics and reading the report, we've got to have a bit of green space thrown in there because that's what a lot of people wanted, and I don't know how to word to put into regarding Frank Clapp Memorial, so yeah,
We acknowledge that's probably in the green space sort of space
Yes.
part of it.
try and push it in.
Yes, that's pretty hard
As long
work.
as it's not forgotten, Mr Mayor, please.
No, no, certainly not. So councillor, we're in debate. For and against?
Yeah, as I said, Mr Mayor, I'll be voting against this because I don't believe we should be relying on regional precincts and partnership program for a start. That could be 2, 3, 4, 5 years away. You never know. I don't believe we should be putting codicils virtually on the sale of the land and what it's got to be used for. We're here to look after the ratepayers of the Coorong District Council. And I believe that it should be sold as a whole on the market base with an allowance for a small green area or whatever, which I've called Qualman Reserve. I don't know.
It's
what the heck it's got.
He's already got one.
It's where
He's already got one.
the plate is, so I will be definitely voting against it.
So sorry, councillors, I just need to inform everyone that there was some commentary around some of the submissions, or not commentary, or that wasn't included in our agenda, and that it has been sent out recently. I'm just looking at so that, just so that the public understands that those ones which were omitted from our first public agenda have been considered by the elected members. Anyone else wish to speak for or against? Don't rush me. Councillor Bland, you're ready, I can see.
I guess my concern is around time framing, time. This project could take a long time to get, a little bit like councillor Arthur, this could be a long time coming. What are the options for future councils, a future council, should this not proceed, or are we leaving them with a problem in the long run with
The future council can do as it wishes. New council.
Yes.
There's no one else wishes to speak. I'm going to let councillor Maidment close it.
Close it.
Closed.
Closed, yep.
So councillors, you have on the screen, and you know that it's fractionally different to the original recommendation, which includes the provision of open space in the middle of the first 2 points. Okay, those voting for the motion, please show. Those voting against. So the motion is lost. So the people voting for the motion was councillors Maidment and Qualman, and the people voting against it was councillors O'Hara, Peach, Bland and Arthur. Okay, move on to the next one. Number 3, National Assembly of Local Government, Australian Council of Local Government in Canberra. Councillors, I'd like each of you to consider whether you would like to go to this. I think it's useful for Councillor Bland. You've been, I think, in your time, one of these. Yeah. I will understand the cost of it.
I'm sure there will be criticisms of the cost of it, Mr Mayor.
But I indicated that, you know, I'm more than prepared to go, but if a couple of councillors wish to go, I, you know, could pull out, but I'm more than happy to go on behalf of council.
I'll move we endorse it, the mayor goes.
I'd be
That's
interested,
option 1.
I'd be interested in going, but date-wise, I can't commit just yet.
Through you, Mayor, we put the, this report up early to capture the early bird and the ability to get early, or cheaper air flights, but it certainly hasn't closed.
I'm happy to go, subject, if councillor Peach is unable to go on those dates. At this point, if we are able to have just an open ticket on that, I don't know how easily that is.
No, we can't. One of the issues.
Well, I'll just wear trousers.
Well, councillor Peach could wear something else, yes. So when would the early bird deal run out?
I move the motion, Mr Mayor, that
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
only you and the CEO went last year.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. Making sure that no one else is really keen in one motion. There's no one else at this stage, that's fine, at this stage, we've got a little bit of time, we believe. So that's option 1. Councillor Arthur.
Yes.
Option 1, is there a seconder? Councillor O'Hara is the seconder. Okay. Who wants to speak to this, who are against it? There's none. No one wants to speak. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. Number 4, Murray-Darling Association 2024 National Conference and Annual General Meeting. 2 options there, councillors. It would be prudent for some of us to attend that, given I'm going to Canberra the week before. I'm probably stretching me a bit, but
Already have delegates for water, so they're good.
it's at Tamworth, councillors. It's the wrong time of the year for both country and Western music.
Good.
Well, the festival anyway.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to nominate councillor Peach and councillor Corman.
Councillors, how do you feel? Yes, councillor Qualman.
I've had a bit of a think about this, and I did enjoy attending the national conference as the council rep on Regional 6 at Murray Bridge. While Tamworth is a long way away, it's probably a better situation in minding my son at the moment. So, yeah, I'll put my hand up and I'll attend. Thank you.
Love yourself. Okay, councillor Peach, how you feel?
Again, I would like to attend. I'm just not able to commit right now.
Okay.
I'm in a bit of a bind over, sorry.
Well, I don't think this precludes, I think this
As
just.
long as I'm not going to cost council anything by putting my name up at the moment and then maybe withdrawing in a few weeks, then I would put my name forward.
So you meant, we would leave your booking until you confirmed. Again, this was one where we were putting it up early so that we could take advantage of any early bird or cheaper air flights, but it certainly is not closed.
So we're leaving your name there as at this stage?
Thank you.
Okay, and can I just refer to the second part? Perhaps appointing council's voting delegate now, we want to do that now? That number one option?
I'd like to recommend councillor Coleman.
Councillor Qualman will be, since he's more convinced than others that he's going, yes?
Since I'll be there, I might also be there.
Yeah, all right. So council, we have option one with councillors Qualman and Peach and appointing councillor Qualman as council's voting delegate to the MDA's annual general meeting. Anyone else? Who's moving it? Councillor Bland, as yes you were. That's very good. You're a seconder. Councillor Maidman is the seconder. Okay, any debate? Being none, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. Number 5 is Dupang, how I say that word. Very good. Dupang Festival in-kind requests. Anyone need an explanation of what this is about? Or we just move to someone moving that way?
Through you, Mayor, if I may, I just query being new to this area with Aboriginal land and council, it's our responsibility with Aboriginal land. Are we responsible on
No, that's-
their, or how does that work? Because I've no idea and I was just curious.
Well, it's not relevant whose land it is. It's about a festival and whether this has exceeded the CEO's ability to, what's the right word, apportion some money under our policies. To basically, after some review of the job of the director, acting director, we just mow the track in basically. That's basically what was been asked for, and there's a cost there, as you can see.
Yeah.
A bit over $600. So it's not whose own land, it's more around the dance group.
I was just
at this stage.
curious, just because everything else we've done has been who's owns what, and especially with roads and lands and things, and I was just
It's not-
curious to know where we were at with that, that's all.
It's upon consideration, it was felt that a grader would do more harm than good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And therefore, with some negotiation, they've ended up in this position, to be quite honest.
Yep.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'll move the motion.
Okay, thanks. Councillor O'Hara has moved. Motion the recommendation that council support the in-kind request from the Narrandjeri Elder, Major Moogie Sumner, and the Talkinjiri. That, looking at councillor. Dance group to slash 1 kilometre of private road, an area in preparation for this festival on the 15th to 17th of March.
Just have a quick
Question.
Question.
I want to second it first. Councillor Qualman is the seconder. Yes, councillor.
And that is around, is this part of the area that's being slashed for camping?
Trav, please.
Yeah, through the chair and car park slash.
Okay, access. No open fires there. I'm just looking at the bushland around the pictures, that's all, and the native scrub. Are we responsible if this happens?
So you,
Big open area.
it's for
Out of
access more than
park.
anything.
Yeah.
You could argue it's about prevention of fire, councillors.
Pardon?
You could argue it's about prevention of fire.
You could.
I've got a mover and a seconder. You want to speak to it, councillor O'Hara?
I'll just say, it brings a lot of people to town. I think last time there was 300 or 400 there, or more than that, but maybe 700 or 800, I'm not sure now. It was 3 or 4 years ago, but I think it's a good thing to support the area.
Councillor Qualman?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I concur exactly what Councillor Hara says. Also, it's a good decision on council that to use the slashing. I think a grader would do a lot more damage to the native fauna and so forth, where just slashing it's just going to regrow again. So that's the way to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? There being no one, the motion is as is the recommendation, councillors. I'll put it. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Number 6, the 23-24 annual business plan second quarter review. The recommendation that the council adopts the annual business plan second quarter review. Someone move that way, please. Councillor Bland. Is there a seconder? Councillor O'Hara. Questions, councillors? It's been through finance. I think it's been to audit and risk as well.
Questions there, page 28, construction electric car for electric EVs. City Council and RAA have executed agreement for EV charging station at Meningie. That hasn't gone through council to be approved yet. It's still in abeyance. All those three
Page
EV
28.
stations.
Just hang on.
So no, the actual agreements have been signed. The actual consultation is out for the use of the land for that, but the actual signing of the document has taken place.
It reads, Council and RAA have executed the agreement for an EV charging station at Meningie.
Correct.
Additional agreements established for Canalpin and Talamben. The land occupation permission is being processed during February and March. We have only passed them in principle. We haven't passed them for agreements to be signed.
I don't know that.
No.
How can we sign an agreement on it when it hasn't gone out in consultation?
Consultation is not,
100% and say we're not interested.
So, yeah.
the consultation is not about whether we have the EVs, it's about the use of the land for them. That's, if it came back, we would just go to RAA and say it's finished, but that's not what's happening at the moment.
Okay.
So,
Any other questions around that second quarter review, councillors? There being none, I'm going to put the motion. Number 6, the recommendation is as it reads. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Number 7, Coorong Local Action Plan Equity Reserve. There's a recommendation, councillor. Someone want to move it? Councillor Arthur's moving. For a seconder. Councillor Bland. So Arthur, you want to speak to it?
No, I think it's something we've been talking about for some time. We've discussed it at workshops and it's now coming to fruition. I think I thought it was going to be originally it was in last year's budget, but and unfortunately we ran out of time. Now we've got it on track to do.
Councillor Bland?
No, I'm happy with it. I think it's a valid one to do.
Anyone else wish to add to the debate? Okay, there being no one, you'll close, councillor?
Close.
Close. I put the motion, number 7. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Budget review, number 2, item 8, financial year 23-24. The recommendation, as per the regulations. Someone move that way, please. Councillor Arthur's the mover. Is there a seconder? Need a seconder? As per the regulations. Councillor Arthur, you wish to speak to your motion?
Yeah, just a couple of points I'd like to ask. There are components for leave entitlements captured in the expenditure due to lump sum payments to the staff that have since left council. Well, there is a reserve fund which has your long service leave and your holiday pay in it. So that should not make any difference to your salary portion because it comes out of that, correct or not?
Don't know.
for you, Mayor, It is not a cash reserve. There is no cash in it. It's just an accounting method to know what our liability would be.
I'm very confused with this. You've got a reserve fund in the budget, which fluctuates year to year, right? It would be, I would have thought, where your long service leave component and your holiday pay component goes in and comes out of that fund.
Correct.
It's not that. Well, why has it been reflected here? It's come actually out of this extra salaries.
So councillor, sorry, Mayor, through you, are we talking about the 50,000 in the accounting?
No, I'm talking about the statement below. There are also components for leave entitlements captured in this expenditure due to lump sum payments to the staff that assists Leicester Council. And those lump sum payments come out of the entitlement, which is a separate.
So you mean,
Reserve.
as I mentioned, it is not a cash reserve, so cash reserve, the cash still has to be accounted for. The reserve from an accounting perspective will change, but we also have to account for the cash going out of the business.
Yeah,
But not from the reserve, because the reserve is only an accounting reserve. There is no actual money sitting in a bank that says this is earmarked for this purpose. We don't have any cash reserves.
so we've got no commitment whatsoever within the budget for long service leave and holiday pay.
So there
That's
is,
just a fictitious figure that we've.
No, it's in the budget as a figure,
Yeah, that's right.
but it's not backed by cash.
No, of course it's not. You don't put
Yeah. Well,
900,000, it's nearly $1 million, it's $932,000.
but
You
that
don't
may
put
be,
that in the kitty and don't use it.
well, Miles, do you want to have a crack at this one?
Through the chair, one of the things with long service leave is it's portable. So you can take it from employer to employer. So we can't, even if we sat down and said, oh, let's make sure we have a provision for everyone's long service leave. It only becomes something you have to pay out if someone says, I want to have my long service paid out. They can move to another council and take their long service leave with them. So in effect, you know, from council to council, it's unders and overs with a long service leave. What we do need to be aware of, every now and then, there'll be someone who will leave and go into private enterprise. And that's when it's not portable.
Yeah.
But we look at our, we look at our workforce and we make a risk calculation based on that. It won't happen that often. It did actually happen with Matt. That was a situation that happened, and that's how it's reflected in PR2.
Okay, the second is the budget review identifies a minimum of 50,000 from employee expenditure to materials and contractors. Could you please explain that?
so you mean. So
The CEO.
the director who was acting in the position was on contract, not on salary. It was accounted for in the salary. That's just a movement. There is no change. That's a neutral effect.
It was actually a contractor, not
Correct.
an employee, yeah.
Councillor Peach?
Just a further question, councillor Arthurs, if I'm understanding him correctly, if I'm through you, Mr. Mayor, is councillor Arthurs' question that why did it come out of salaries as opposed to reducing the reserve? Is that,
I think that's the intent of his question, if that was, but councillors, we're just discussing whether we need a further understanding on non-cash back reserves and perhaps having a workshop. So if we take your question on notice, councillor Peach.
no, I don't think it's a misunderstanding about the cash nature of the reserve, but as a line item reduction, did it come off of the reserve or did it come out of the salaries, or are these in two different categories as far as this budget review goes?
Your comment about it's two different categories is the correct one. So some of it is about the cash, coming out of the cash. Some of it is about the accounting in the reserves. And you may not see it as a direct dollar for dollar because that reserve would be changing every fortnight as people's accruals change.
I'm still on Mover? I'm going to move it, councillor Zell. Yes, I have. Anyone else want to speak for or against the motion? Okay, councillor Arthur, you'll close. Okay, I put the motion, it is at the recommendation as in the agenda. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Number 9, IT strategy update. Councillors, the recommendation that you receive and note that report. Someone move that way, please. Councillor Maidman. Seconder. Councillor O'Hara. Questions? There is none. Anyone want to speak for or against the motion?
No, it's all straightforward.
Straightforward. You're closing, councillor, if
I
that's
am
the
for
case.
Close.
Motion, councillor receive and note the report. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Number 10, Council Local Government Finance Authority debenture loan. The recommendation there, councillors? Or do we require further explanation?
I'd like to move that we have further, to go out of session 5 minutes to have a
5
full
minutes won't be
explanation
long.
again.
Does the councillors agree to a 10-minute suspension of standing orders? Yes, 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 yes. Is that what I'm saying?
Yes.
10 minutes. Weeks, who wants to have a cricket? Just what this is about.
Through the chair, and I believe we have presented previously, Finance Committee, Capital Works Committee. It was signalled that at some stage this financial year, we would need to extend our CAD facility to a maximum of 3 mil. And a significant component of that is to fund the Capital Works.
Councillors and for the public, CAD is in effect the word overdraft for most of us in any other life. Questions?
Is there any, through you, Mr. Mayor, is there any reason why we can't seek to extend the CAD again and why this needs to be a debenture loan?
So you may know, it's about the, a loan of that significance is to put it against, and the different projects to put it against, that's a requirement. No. Short answer is no, councillor.
So again, through you, Mr. Mayor, there'll be no ability to, we will be paying interest on that from the get-go at the full amount. Would that be correct?
As we exercise the right to that loan, yes.
So through me, can I have that clarified? Will the right to that loan commence on the day we borrow the money for the entire amount, or will we only pay interest on the amounts used over time?
It'll be from the, for you, I will check this, but my assumption is that it'll be from the time we exercise the loan. This is all, sorry, through you, Mayor, these jobs, as they are listed, are all work that we propose to do. So it's not like any of them will sit there and we'll be paying for a loan that's not actually working for a particular project.
So I would have a, sorry.
Yep, I'm just watching councillor Peets because he's still.
I have another, but I'll
Right.
defer. Yep.
Well, I
Councillor
guess
Bland.
Mine's a bit of a follow-up question on councillor Peaches anyway, and that is on the timing and the use of the money and having it sitting there. Sadly, sometimes we do slip. We don't get all our jobs done. So I would be worried if we did have the money sitting there and paying interest on something that it may take us 5, 6 months to actually utilise.
The other way is we can't do it unless we have the money.
Well,
It's a bit like
the question would
ordinance.
be is, are we drawing down on a roads, but one road at a time basis, or are we drawing down
As a group,
as a whole group?
I need to be listed.
There to mix your access to the CAD and to a fixed line. So you got, and I think that's how you're able to, take advantage of either option according to your time.
To For you, Mayor, that would be the accountants would do that as a matter of course to look, what is the cash at the bank? Do we exercise the loan? Do we not? Do we exercise the CAD? Do we not? And each of those are decisions they make fortnightly, to be perfectly frank, about how the cash flows.
Mr Mayor, through you to CEO, I suppose. We had $2.5 million at the end of June. The last report, we had $350,000 with, according to Bill, probably $1.02 million in rates to come in. So that is an inflow. When you give these sort of things, it would be nice to know actually your cash flow. And that's basically what this is. Now, this loan will only be proportionately drawn as needed.
That's what we were just saying, councillor,
Sorry.
through you, Mayor. We will, every fortnight, as we look at our cash flows, and you're right, the rates come in and change the cash flows, grants come in and change the cash flows. So it will be a combination of whether it's a CAD or it'll be a drawdown of that loan. And so I think the accountants will do what is the best for the organisation at the time. So
It just worries me. It always worries me within the budget we reported that we've got all the income, at the start of the year, which we haven't. There's no cash flow of the income, actual income.
That's prepared, as is
Yeah,
the model
yeah,
financial
but
statements, councillor.
If we're saying we've got to borrow 1.6 million, rates to come in March, we've got
Yeah.
rates to come in June at the end of the June. If we've got to borrow 1.6, that means we have probably run a $1.6 million deficit.
No, I would think that wouldn't be a fair summation. I think
Well,
principal reason, and it was in the budget papers, is that last year we could not complete all the projects, therefore the requirement to borrow did not happen. But we're getting closer to catching up, councillors, getting closer to catching up. And so in that respect, this, we're coming back to our position as agreed, so why that's here
for
today.
you, Mayor, we have already accounted for the rates coming in. That's part of the cash flow calculations. And as the Mayor said, even with that calculation, we can't finish these capital projects without it. And some of them were carried over from last year. If we had been in a position to finish them last year, we would have been sitting here in this chamber talking about this loan last year.
yeah.
Through you, Mayor.
Councillor Peach, yes.
Can I have it re-clarified why a CAD either extending the existing or a separate standalone one would not be suitable for this purpose?
These would, through you, Mayor, and Miles might jump in, but these are long-term projects. The CAD is generally designed, like you use your overdraft, for short-term, as the cash flow Councillor Arthur alluded to, with the rates coming in at different times during the year. So the cash flow and the CAD work hand in hand. And there's a view in local government that you shouldn't have too much cash on hand. That's generally not an issue for us. But this is to identify that it's a better practice to look at using a long-term arrangement for things that have a long-term life.
Yeah, I understand that principle, but what bugs me with this is that from the moment that agreement is executed, we'll be on the hook for about $74,000 a year in interest.
And we've put that in the budget.
Yes, but using a CAD, we wouldn't be until all the funds are expended. Could we not utilise a CAD in the first instance and transition once the funds have been expended
Through you,
to
Mayor,
eventually?
remember the discussion we had about CADs before, and that the appetite for our lending finance, LGFA, is we've maximised that CAD from what they see as they may come back, and remember we have 3 million, they may come back once we've finished our long-term financial plan, our asset management plans, and the things that they want to see aligned before. But at this point in time, this is the best outcome, and it's one that we've flagged with you over probably 4 or 5 meetings.
I understand through you, Mayor, the flagging with us about, and I understand the amount. I'm not disputing that. What I'm saying is that there are two different products, two different lending products here, one of which would cost us less. And I am failing to understand, if the purpose is known, why they would approve one and not the other, particularly if it was a standalone CAD, given its capital expenditure.
The CAD is designed for short-term adjustments for cash flow. The lending facility is a bit like building a big asset. It's a longer term loan so that you spread the cost over a greater number of years. And again, it's that intergenerational element that local governments look to, which we haven't exercised at all.
Mr. Mayor, I'll be voting no to this motion. I don't think it's prudential to use a product when there's an alternative.
Your issue is the product.
My issue is the product that we will be immediately liable for $1.6 million worth of interest when we haven't expended the funds. If there's a way of using existing funds to get to that point of project completion and then executing, I'd probably be in support of it, but
I think
I'm
we'll be
struggling to see the
immediately,
logic
councillor.
behind this in the short term.
Yeah.
The one thing, this will probably take 2 or 3 months to exercise. By that time, we would have been using our CADs for other things during the year. So it's not like it's going to happen tomorrow. This is still a 2 to 3 months type of exercise, and it's really setting the scene for where we need this loan arrangements to be in place. So.
Other councillors, please, I'm nearly out of my 10 minutes. Councillor Corman.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Bear. Just trying to get my head around how all this works. So debentures like an overdraft, so I would assume when you have an overdraft, you take it on and then you endeavour to pay it off. So we're borrowing some money to speed up, have the necessary cash to get out these outstanding capital projects. And then I would see, would have it from our other sources, hopefully, cash come in to pay back this debt or overdraft. Is that how it works?
Not quite, but yeah.
So the CAD facility essentially is the overdraft, not the line. For the capital works program to ensure that we've got enough money to finish that. Our bills. Now, this is all about the flow of money in and out of council over a 12-month period, noting that we have 4 rates instalments. We do financial year, but we don't get it all that quickly. So we have to manage that cash flow. And at the same time, we have a capital works program that's delivered. And noting capital works programs tend to have all the bills 5 months of the financial year, or the bulk of them. And look, we run a nice tight enterprise here. We have huge amounts of money in the bank to call upon, so our vehicles are using week transactions to make sure there's enough money to pay things such as salaries and the like. And then the loan is traditionally for capital works type programs. I will say that I'm not convinced that the LGFA would extend the CAB beyond given to us. It's a risk-averse environment for local government financing at the moment, quite clearly. So this is the model that the LGFA have indicated that it's for.
And one more,
One
please.
little bit more, then I'm going to resume.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, just quickly that then regarding the capital works, then we're on an even keel, are we? We've caught up and then we're like our asset renewal will be on target. Is that right? This is a catch up?
Through the chair, I think that's the key,
Yeah.
is that we're actually delivering our projects pretty efficiently. And we have to have the money available to pay those bills and keep going.
Yeah.
I agree, last year it wasn't so much a problem because we were actually behind and not only we were behind because suppliers were behind, contractors were behind. So we went, even if we had the money, chances are we weren't able to deliver that capital works program, but it's a different environment now.
Yeah, well, that's my concern, that we're on target now and we won't be in this predicament. We'll start moving ahead. Thank you.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor,
But look,
one question.
very quickly.
Very quickly. The Audit and Risk Committee said it is very bad practice for councils to go and borrow money for capital projects when they have cash in the bank. And that's what you're virtually trying to tell us you're going to do?
That's not what they said.
That's not, when you say to me, we've got cash in the bank, that's not the case. We don't have millions of dollars in the bank that we can draw upon.
That's what we can't find out, can we?
And we just don't have that. That's
Sorry.
that.
Councillor, you get the financial statements once a month, and at the finance committee, that shows the cash in the bank every time those reports are given to you.
Visit in this minutes.
While we find that, I'm gonna,
Because I was looking for it and I could not find it.
Through you, Mayor, if you look at the BR2,
And when they print it, can they print a bit smaller so it doesn't spread, go across two spreadsheets?
so if you look at BR2, 5 of 11, it shows the cash and cash equivalents in the bank,
What page am I on, sorry?
5 of 11 of BR2. The previous agenda item.
Right.
that's there, councillor. I'm gonna resume ordinary procedures. We've had more than 10 minutes, councillors. I have a recommendation. Not quite sure how, if this was not done today, how we would have to look at those capital projects. I'm just thinking about that.
So the follow-up question on that, if I might, Mr Mayor,
Liking someone to move it so we can debate it, but.
I just want a question.
Mhm.
And that is around, of all of these projects,
Councillor.
I'm assuming that, well, I know they've been looked at in the past, but given the amount that we're considering here, and obviously the interest rate, are any of these likely to be carried over to next year? I mean, we are notoriously moving reasonably frequently that we don't finish our projects, with all due respect to the team that works really hard at it. And we only need a weather event to do that. So is it required that we need to pull down this amount of money in the first instance, rather than perhaps do it in two portions?
Well, if you want, I suppose there's two ways of looking at it. One is if you don't approve it,
But we're not going to do all these projects, if I might, Mr
Well,
Mayor, at the same time, are we?
well, the intention is to do them. Some is resheet, some is reseal, some is capital works with an accompanying slurp contribution.
So we have contractors lined up. ready
And
to
also
go on
another,
all of these.
and I might just add, I think with the airfield, I think that will have a finished date of funding on,
Not until next financial.
not next financial year.
Say that again?
The Tindanara airfield will have a completion date from a grant point of view, because that's also nearly half funded by a grant. They're all substantive capital improvement. I am looking for a motion because I don't quite know what I'm going to do if I don't.
Test the water.
Righto, councillor Bland, are you moving the recommendation as it reads?
Yes, I'll test the water.
Okay. Look for a seconder.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'd be happy to second it on one, if one thing was different. And that was the end that we're doing Yamali Road.
So, councillor, this is about a resheet on the Menengi end.
Yeah. I think it should be on the other end because that's where all the traffic is.
Trav, I did say the Menengi end, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
But that's where probably the rubble's been raised for it, I think, wasn't it?
Probably, but was that in?
The road does need doing there, I agree, but all the traffic is the other end of Yamali Road.
That will be a report to the next works meeting, councillor, about the actual traffic counts, yes. And as you saw earlier today, you were, yes, in the workshop, we might know a bit more about that then.
But we'll second it though with just letting you know.
Just letting me know.
Like the other end better.
Okay. I'm taking it as the recommendation. Councillors, open for debate. It is the recommendation as it reads. No one wants to speak to it. I'm going to put it to a vote.
Mr Mayor, I'll just note, I don't have an issue with the borrowing in general. Well, I do, but we've got to this point. I have an issue with exercising a loan where the funds may not be immediately expended, which is going to cost ratepayers $92,000 a year in interest. If that could be done in multiple loans or in a way that doesn't incur immediate expense, I'd support the motion. But as it stands, I can't.
Just trying to see if a change of words would satisfy you, councillor. How would it go with up to one?
Can we break it up? Can we break it up? As we would.
I don't know how I can satisfy your thoughts, councillor. That's my only question within the motion. It's not my motion. So.
Could I vary the motion to split it into 3 debenture loans? Would that satisfy requirements?
For you, Mayor, I would have to get advice because we would have to talk to LGFA about that arrangement. This is advice from them about the best way forward. I wouldn't presume that they would recommend that type of splitting, but I'm more than happy to go back and talk to them about that.
I'm happy to have an extra point put on there saying, subject to investigation of 3, split it into 3 debenture loans and report back to council.
So, councillors, we're going to run out of time to do these projects. That's just one thing I need to remind you of, if that's the case. Are you saying then, if, with the proviso of that investigation of 3 different loans, are you saying that if LGFA come back and say, no, that's not the way to go, from whatever reason, are you saying you've endorsed the 1.6 million, or do we come back to council in March?
Through Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to proceed on that basis, but I'd certainly like the question asked, is there a way to minimise the interest payments?
We can do that.
So if that was the case, with councillors, you'd need to remove, I think, that the mayor and chief executive would be authorised to execute it until such time as that was known.
On receipt of this advice.
Well, I think that advice needs to be brought back to council at that point.
So we could have a special meeting to do that.
Yeah.
In terms of the urgency of getting the work done.
So if I was to read it, move councillor Bland, second councillor Hara, that an application for a debenture loan of 1.6 million be made to the local government financing authority, with the proviso that council administration investigate the possibility of
Reducing interest.
of set 3 separate three separate loans within that limit or something along those lines.
Minimising interest.
Minimising interest is the point I've been trying to get to, so. Yeah.
Which is better in my mind than trying to.
3, yeah.
Yes. Because they may, through you, Mayor, they may have a different solution to that.
Oh, I'm trying to let Ashley have a hint here.
Investigating the minimisation of interest.
All right, so has everyone got it up on the screen again? I'm going to look at councillor Bland first.
I'd like to see the wording adjusted first.
It is on my screen.
No, so taking out 3 separate loans just to investigate the minimisation of interest.
That gives the LGFA some flexibility as well.
And us.
Councillor O'Hara, how are you going as the seconder?
I'm still trying to read it because it keeps shifting.
And with your sharp eyes?
Um, Yeah, no, I think I'm happy with it.
Both the mover and the seconder are happy with the revised wording. Anyone else wish to go on debating this at this stage? Councillor Qualman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm the type that never like borrowing money, and I thank Councillor Peach for emphasising the importance of expense to the ratepayers of interest charges. However, I believe these capital works projects have a priority to be done, and there's probably no way out of it. So the motion is a lot more better than I think it was before, as it is there. So I'll be supporting it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? I'm going to read the motion. Moved Councillor Bland, seconded Councillor Hara, that an application for a debenture loan of $1.6 million be made to the Local Government Financing Authority with the proviso that council administration investigates options to minimise interest, and the Mayor and Chief Executive Officer be authorised to execute and affix the council's common seal to any relevant documentation in relation to the borrowings for and on behalf of council. Is that how it reads? Everyone happy? Councillor Bland, you're closed.
I'm happy with it, Mr Mayor, and I do hope we get all of those projects finished after this debate. Yes.
Okay. Put the motion as it is on the screen. Councillors, all those in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Number 11, the minutes of the Canalpin District Soldiers Memorial Swimming Pool and Caravan Park. The recommendation there, councillors, someone move that way. Councillor Peach, you moving that way?
Indeed.
For a seconder? Councillor Maidment, any discussion?
Mr Mayor, just like to note that it was a productive meeting. I think a few little things got dealt with and tidied out of the way during the course of it. And it sounds like the pool season is going well at this stage.
Yep. Okay, anyone else? Hearing no one, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. Number 12, Finance Committee minutes of the meeting held on the 6th of February. I'll move that way, please. Councillor Qualman. Seconder. Councillor Maidment, thank you. Straightforward, councillors. No discussion. Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Number 13, Audit and Risk Committee, minutes of the meeting held on the 13th of February. Council received the minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee and meeting summary report as tabled. Who wants to move that way? Councillor Bland? You? A seconder, Councillor Corman. Any discussion? Councillor Peach?
Through Mr Mayor, could I ask the councillors present if there was anything of interest they'd from that meeting they'd like to bring to the Chamber's attention?
Can? The two of them?
Probably a lot of discussion around our long-term financial plan and what that potentially will look like over the next 10 years, and the target we'll need a discussion around ASCO's role was also significant in that conversation. Definitely some concerns voiced around some risk metrics around how that may be identified better in the documentation that the Audit Committee receives overall. And I think there was, having been to the Finance Committee and a number of other meetings that we've had, I think probably the councillors there had been well informed prior to that meeting. So I think you probably were well informed in this here as well on most of what was discussed at that meeting. There's definitely some concern about ensuring that we look at our long-term financial plan and how that might look in the future, and pretty much having to hold fairly tight.
Councillor Qualman?
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thanks, Councillor Bland. Pretty well. What I'd like to say, the other things was the AMPs were mentioned quite often in the long-term financial plan, and as well as depreciation and planning to get them up to date, so we can establish a good financial plan in the future. What else was there? Budget review and the audits review, and yes, I think it was pretty well discussed and a pretty comprehensive meeting. And the risk register update, refining, that was good to get that more performing better. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions? There being none. 13, I put the motion. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. Number 14, Murraylands and Riverland Local Government Association minutes of the meeting held on the 1st of February at Loxton. Recommendation, we received the minutes. Councillor Arthur. A seconder. Councillor Peach. Any questions? Of note, sorry, councillors, is that our region has seen forward to endorse our paper and request around putting solar or wind power back into electricity lines, and that will go to SAROC at this stage, I believe.
Just one comment from the minutes is 11.2. Knows that the 10th Street precinct is getting designed. CDC will go into regional partnerships precincts for this initiative. It's never been decided by council as yet.
As now. As now.
No, it hasn't.
Through the chair, everything was subject to the nice decision. And it was clear that everything was subject. So we've not moved forward with anything without authority. So it's in the chair, but you do realise we have to prepare some information for the funding application, should you have made a decision to proceed tonight.
Okay, any other questions around those minutes or that agenda? There being none, put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Right, 11.1, information reports. Information report of the Office of the Chief Executive Officer. Is there any questions? Councillor Qualman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Actually, just a comment on page 69, Port Macklin Lighthouse, 845 attendants or went through the counter. That's a pretty good rollout for 1 month, I would have thought.
I think there's a note somewhere about the reliability of some of
Oh.
those outliers. Councillor, you might be correct, but if you know
Oh, that's disappointing.
some other graphs that they've been identified as interesting.
Yes.
So you may, they're not the most sophisticated of counters, but they're all we've got.
Just sounds a good number. Yeah, thank you.
Well, it should be a lot better after Easter.
11.1, is there any other questions? Councillors, before I ask someone to move the, receive and note the report? Councillor Arthur, are you moving that way now? I'll just note that I need to have all the questions answered before we vote on the motion. Okay, Councillor Arthur moves. Is there a seconder? Councillor Maven, thank you. That Council. Sorry, my pen's gone blunt. Receive and note the report. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Number 2. Community and Corporate Information Report. Questions, councillors?
Through, sir, just wondering, noting the departure of the patrol grader, how we're going with replacement?
So you may, we are just now crafting the advertisements to go out for that. That should go out within the next week.
Other questions, councillors?
Just, my question is around the signage that now has to go up about smoke-free and vape-free and the size of them and the cost to the council and how far are we going to extend it, given that we have a riverfront, a lakefront, and many other areas, if I'm reading this right. Beaches between 50 metres We don't actually have yellow and we don't have flags, so are we actually included in that? How does that work?
Through you, Mayor. All I can say is that we're following the instructions from the state as to what we need to do, and it's basically on track. We get 5 free signs, and we're putting them where we've been suggested we put them.
So through the chair, there's the ability in certain places to just put a sticker up.
Yep.
Yes, and as far as the, like, my understanding of the jetties, the main one.
Councillor, there'd be considerable distress in local government, pushing back on the state government for just dumping this on us
So it should,
with the timeframes which they wouldn't accept if they had to do it.
We're doing it.
Because we can.
But not.
Any other questions? Okay, no more questions, then someone move the recommendation, please. Councillor Qualman's the mover. Councillor Arthur is the seconder. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. Number 3, infrastructure and assets, or roads and infrastructure, R&I, I think. Ash will correct that. Any questions? Councillor Qualman.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Mason's Lookout Road, page 106, and with the resheeting, of course, the 3 Ks in the middle there somewhere. Whilst all the machines are there, do we anticipate some other road deficiencies on either side? I'm just talking about some ratepayers complained to me about some blowouts. Would they do that while they're there, or that'll be done later?
Do you, Mayor? The answer is yes.
Thank you.
Yes, it would be probably almost a normal practice. You need a substantial amount of machinery, not just the patrol operator.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions, councillor Bland?
yes, in relation to the playground at Meningie, it refers to 2 swings that are missing. In fact, one was removed some time ago, and that is one of the wooden rocking horses. And given that there's not much for that age group in that area, is it intended to be returned or with the appropriate non-plastic thing?
Yeah, through the chair, looking to replace, we are working with suppliers. Unfortunately, getting them on board is taking a lot longer than we.
So that's for the wooden one, the rocking horse?
Yes.
Okay.
May not be exactly the same, yeah, as long as compliant, something
Meets the
compliant.
needs. So it's 3 replacements.
Other questions?
Dumping was terrible.
Okay, there's no more questions. Someone move we receive and note the report, please. Councillor Arthur. Is there a seconder? Councillor Qualman. Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. 12.1, questions? Councillor? So, is Mick all right, or did he just disappear? Geez, all I can see is a
Empty chair.
It's
Empty
fine, it
ch-
can fall off.
12.1. There's an answer there, councillor. Any issues with that?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As I'm sure my fellow councillors would note, they're not quite the questions I asked, but I would like to move a motion arising from these questions through Mr Mayor that council staff explore amending the procurement policy to provide extra weighting to in-council businesses. And if I could provide comment on that.
Can I just make a comment, Mayor? This current policy is due for review as we speak. So it's probably timely. If councillors want to make a change, it'll be circulated like other policies over the next few weeks or months, but it's certainly due for review. So that type of change could come back as part of feedback in terms of what councillors would like to see in the procurement policy.
So through you, Mayor, will
Your,
that,
your words just could include as part of the forthcoming policy review.
happy to have that?
So let's just word that up, please. As part of the forthcoming
Coming-
policy review,
Explore providing extra weighting to in-council businesses,
councils located in the,
businesses located
Area.
within the Coorong District Council, in procurement matters.
so that would be so we say give a bit more oomph behind the policy review. That's what you're asking.
And that's in recognition, Mr Mayor, of both the economic benefit for having those funds expended within council, and also perhaps the higher cost of doing business when based within the council area and distance travel.
Yes,
We're just checking, councillor, but we don't think the word explore is the correct one. We're just having a little.
I'd just note, Mr Mayor, that there may be some legislative requirements around this, is just
Yeah,
why I asked to
that's-
explore it.
we're just making sure that we're not on worries in
We're
that
not-
respect now.
Yeah.
Through the chair, I mean, essentially competition policy, we have to abide by competition policy. So currently, procurement policy says, subject to all commercial provisions being equal, preference is given to local contractors. So we probably would see when we put the policy to elected members, any additional feedback as to a higher level of priority given to local contractors.
Because through you, Mayor, I don't think we can ignore the commercial reality of it. Value for money.
Understanding that, but I think there's also an economic benefit to those funds remaining within the council area. And there's also the reality that, particularly at the extremities of the council, it costs more to do business than it does at the closer you are to Adelaide.
Through you, Mayor, and I don't disagree, the calculation of that is sometimes tricky.
Indeed, which is why I asked, yes, why I didn't think to bring forward a figure, or a percentage, but perhaps to explore it further.
Seconder, please.
Not a question.
I'd like to get a seconder. I'll go with councillor Maidment. But councillor Bland, your question is?
That is in relation to the response from our CEO in point 2. It says council staff often assist local business. I'm sure they're appropriately listed and available for contract work. How does it actively actually happen?
So through you, Mayor, I'll start, but I'm sure that the Director of Roads and Infrastructure can fill me in. But if somebody approaches us, a new business in town, we will outline to them what they need to do to be a preferred contractor, how LGA procurement works, and all the things that would make it easy for them to then tender for council work. We also have very low value contractors. A new plumber comes to town, they may approach council. So Travis and his team also have a list of those small value types of contractors who will be available for maintenance work, basically. If they don't approach council, we may not know them.
Okay, so that is my follow-up question on that, is that how can council proactively, because there are a number of contractors, tradesmen who have moved into town, and I don't doubt that council staff won't know who they are, but probably councillors do. But how is it that council can actually ensure that how to go about that, whether it's through newsletters, local contacts, meetings? I mean, I think we need to be more proactive to follow up on what Councillor Peach said, to keep the cost down, but also the money within our own regions.
Through you, Mayor, just two comments, councillor. One is there is some point where people have to have their own business model. They may not be interested in approaching council for work. And secondly, if somebody was to approach you as councillors, it's probably quite an easy thing to say, please contact council, and they'll outline how you can become part of the procurement process.
Thank you.
And one more point, a third point. it normally is, Mr Mayor, rather onerous sort of document that has to be filled out to become a bird contract unless it's changed in recent years. It was a very thick document.
Through Chair, it's one-page document,
Changed now, is it?
just business details.
A small job, small job.
I suggest that we put it on our website and in our newsletter with a copy of that so people realise it is that simple.
Through you, Mayor, if I may, particularly for small businesses,
Sorry, through you, councillor Bland's question, it is on our website.
In our
Information on
newsletters.
how to contact council.
Sorry, my apology, I meant within our newsletter, so it's in upfront and in your face more often, and on our website, our Facebook page.
Councillor Peach?
thank you, Mr. Through you. I'd just like to make the point that it is a back to front way of doing business to what small business operators are used to. And I think we do need to bear that in mind at times, that most of the time a customer rings a plumber to have a plumbing service. They don't approach the customer to notify them that they might be available for future work. It's just a different way of doing business. So I think we just need to take that into account with how we approach it.
And that's to do with,
Certainly, councillor,
Probity.
but there's an issue of probity too.
Hmm.
Right, anyone else? Oh, motion without notice is moved, councillor Peach, seconded councillor Maidment, that as a part of the forthcoming procurement policy review, council explores providing extra weighting to businesses located within the Coorong Council area. Everyone clear? With the motion, all those in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. Questions without notice, councillors? Councillor Qualman?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor and members of the chamber, recently you will be aware that a young overseas student was killed by a large fallen tree branch in Adelaide. After hearing that, I have concerns with some of our large trees in the Coorong Council, and I was just wondering how council's going about to mitigate the risk of this happening in our council, please.
No. What's our, no.
through me. Thank you, councillor Coleman. Yes, as soon as that incident actually happened, the next day, we started to look at what we would need to do to make sure that community was safe, that our trees had a regime. So we've got a open space tree inspector who's been approached and requested to provide a quote on tree management plans. Now, we have a tree management plan, but this is really, I suppose, focusing more strongly on it, given that incident.
Thank you.
Councillors, you remember we did have a arborist give us a report 2 years ago,
Yes, we did.
around virtually all trees in public spaces in this district, so we'll build off of that, I would think.
Mm.
Okay, questions without notice, I'm still on that. There's no more? Move on. Motions with notice, I have nil. Motions without notice, councillors? I have none. Move on to number 14, minute action list. Councillor Peach.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Noting the Community Health Services Correspondence Action List item, meeting has been sought with the Health Minister. Have we had any progress on seeking that meeting?
Yes, I believe we are going to see the minister.
On the 6th of March.
Yeah, thank you.
Excellent.
Excellent.
Which is interesting, it come out the same day as the publicity around that issue. Maybe unrelated.
Seems to be a lot of things through you, Mr Mayor, that are unrelated in this particular space.
Other, where am I? Minute action list, councillors?
Through you,
Yeah.
Mr Mayor, maybe councillor Peach can update us on the Bendigo Bank service at Meningie. Are they doing any business, or have you had a report from them?
I have actually. I asked through you, Mr Mayor. And
Yeah, it's your floor.
CEO. I have asked the manager how that was going about a fortnight ago, and I think as anticipated, picking up, but they'd like to see more. But also indicated they're still there for the long term.
So, and councillor Brooks, while we're on the Bendigo Bank and the rural banking inquiry, was Monday you present or next Monday?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, so I can't ask you how that went.
No, so tomorrow. And I'd also note too that they're also now starting to work with community groups in Tinty and Canalpin. I'll mention this tomorrow. In terms of actioning documents and so forth, that their staff are stopping to do that on the way to and from Meningie because they're going past anyway. So a bit of a knock-on effect from that. Yep.
So councillors and for everyone, I've asked councillor Beach to present at this banking inquiry at Kingston on our behalf tomorrow. I thought it was Monday. Tomorrow.
Just maybe through you, Mr Mayor, also on that, I believe they've got $100,000 to give away in community grants.
Yes, they have foreshadowed that that's coming up. I haven't seen the actual notice for it, but I have personally shared that on the Meningie Facebook pages and elsewhere, given that it is open to all community groups now within the council district. So it would be great to see some of those groups jumping on that.
Very good. Are there anything else in the minute action list, councillors? Councillor Qualman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. 107/23, the stainless steel plasma bin covers, says of the 12th of February, there was still no confirmation. How are we going with that, please?
For you, Mayor, I'm sorry, but the answer's still the same. We have been chasing them, but we have decided that if we are to use that contractor into the future, we need to be patient.
Through you, Mr Mayor.
We share your frustration, councillor. Councillor Peach, sorry.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Have those items been paid for, or is that still an event to occur?
Yeah. To occur. We usually pay on receipt and invoice, so I can't imagine we've paid for them.
So that budget allocation would
It's
be
there.
part of what has moved forward?
I'm hoping it doesn't go into next financial year. It is accommodated in this one, from
From the
last year.
previous,
Yep.
yep.
But, I would be very sad if it was still in June and we're still talking about it.
Very, very sad we would be. Okay, anybody else got questions for the minute action list? There is none. I move on. Councillor Stowe, for those watching the live stream, please be advised that the meeting is about to move into confidence and the live stream will stop. For those who wish to view the end of the meeting, the video will be available on YouTube after today's meeting. Thanks very much, Josh, for coming. We'll see you in a little while.
See you next week.
Good luck.
What's the numbers we're talking
We need it.
about?
Use the travel.